Good night, all, and welcome back to Nightmare 404. Tonight, we are journeying to the final frontier itself with most disturbing true Alaskan horror stories. Before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments, especially if you've ever experienced something strange in the Alaskan wilderness. My name is Ethan Cole, and for as long as I can remember, the ocean has been both my livelihood and my curse. My grandfather braved these waters before me, then my father, and now me, third in line to inherit a legacy carved from storms and salt. I believed I knew the sea, its tempers and its hungers, but the truth is, no one really knows the abyss. Last November, I set out from a small harbor on Kodiak Island with a crew of 9 men. We were hunting halibut along the outer shelf, planning a short trip, 5 days at most. The weather looked forgiving, skies pale and clear, the kind of false calm that tricks you into forgetting how cruel the ocean can be. By the second night, everything changed. A heavy fog rolled in from nowhere, thick enough to choke the deck lights. The world beyond the railing vanished into a wall of gray, and even the waves seemed to go silent. Our instruments began to flicker, compass needles trembling, sonar screens painting shapes that dissolved before we could read them. The men grew uneasy. Mason, my first mate, swore he saw lanterns moving in the mist, as if another ship was shadowing us without sound. Others claimed they heard footsteps pacing the deck at night, though no one was there. We tried to laugh it off, but the laughter never lasted. On the fourth night, the sea gave us something we could not explain. One of the long lines came back heavy, not with fish, but with a tangle of blackened wood, like pieces of a wreck. Lodged in it was a figure, a carved idol, humanoid but wrong in its proportions. Its head stretched long, its eyes gouged deep into the grain. Even waterlogged, it felt warm to the touch, as though it had been waiting. We should have thrown it back. From that moment, the voyage began to unravel. The engines failed without warning. Lights dimmed though fuel was full, and the fog pressed closer, heavy as stone. At night, I heard my men talking in their sleep, repeating guttural words in a language I'd never heard before. Some woke screaming, claiming something had been whispering to them from beneath the waves. By the 5th day, 3 of my crew had vanished. No splashes, no cries for help, just gone. Their bunks were empty, their boots still by the door. Mason swore he saw one of them standing at the stern hours later, face pale, eyes black as the sea, before stepping soundlessly over the rail. The breaking point came when the idol, stored in the hold, began to hum. A low, vibrating sound that rattled the steel plates of the ship. That night, the fog pulsed with faint lights beneath the water, circling us like predators. Shapes moved below the surface, elongated bodies, too large, too fast. The ocean groaned as if alive. I don't remember how we made it back. I remember fire on deck, the smell of burning oil, men clawing at their own eyes to stop seeing whatever had risen from the dark. I remember the water itself climbing over the rails, not as waves, but as grasping limbs. When I woke, we were adrift near the harbor, the ship half sunk, only 4 of us left. No idol, no fog, just silence. Since then, I cannot step on a boat without feeling those whispers vibrating in my skull. I know what I heard. I know what waits. Something ancient moves beneath those waters, older than men, older than time, and it's still watching. My name is Ethan Carver, and for most of my adult life, I thought I understood what it meant to face danger. I've worked the Alaskan pipelines and drilling rigs for over 15 years, enduring storms that could peel the skin off your face, machinery that could snap bones like twigs, and endless stretches of frozen desert where death feels only a few wrong steps away. I always believed I was tougher than the land, harder than the cold, stronger than whatever the wilderness could throw at me. But nothing in my years of experience prepared me for the night we drilled too deep. I was stationed at a remote extraction site not far from the Brooks Range, a place so desolate that even ravens seemed reluctant to linger. Our outpost was small compared to the sprawling operations of Prudhoe Bay, just 30-odd men, a handful of engineers, and the skeleton of a half-built camp huddled against the endless white. Corporate had rushed the job. The surveys weren't finished, the safety checks incomplete, but oil was money, and money demanded speed. I was crew lead that winter. 12-hour night shifts, keeping the younger guys in line and watching over a drill the size of a 2-story house. The work was brutal, monotonous, and dangerous, but it was the only thing I knew. The first sign that something wasn't right came in late March. We had just broken through another section of frozen rock. The monitors should have shown the same readings they always did: pressure, density, mineral composition. Instead, the screen flickered and spat out nonsense, numbers that made no geological sense. The drill bit groaned like it had struck something alive. We killed the motor, thinking we'd hit a gas pocket or a fault line, but the ground beneath us trembled in a way that wasn't natural, like something was pushing back. Then came the seepage. At first it was just a trickle of thick, dark liquid oozing up through the shaft. We all assumed it was crude, the jackpot we'd been waiting for. The younger guys cheered. "We're rich, boys!" they shouted, laughing as though the tundra had finally rewarded us. But when I crouched down to look, a cold shiver ran up my spine. This was an oil, not the kind I'd ever seen. It clung to the steel casing like it was alive, a sludge that shimmered with faint movement even when the air was still. Its stench was unbearable, sweet rot mixed with burnt chemicals. One of the rookies, Mark Sloan, dipped a gloved hand in and pulled it out like a child testing wet paint. Before he could even wipe it off, the stuff had burned straight through the protective fabric, hissing as it ate holes in the material. He screamed, tearing the glove from his hand, but the skin underneath had already begun to blister. That's when the black mass started moving on its own. It didn't spread like spilled oil or tar. It slithered, pulling itself across the frozen steel, climbing against gravity as though searching for something. Someone. I barked orders to clear the platform. Alarms wailed across the camp as we pulled back, but Mark stumbled. The stuff splashed across his arm, and in seconds, his flesh turned the same sickly dark as the liquid. He went silent. His eyes glazed over like a puppet whose strings had been cut. And then, God help me, he smiled. The others tried to pull him away, but Mark wasn't Mark anymore. He staggered toward the shaft, jerking like a marionette, while the sludge seemed to welcome him. It crawled up his body, wrapping his torso, sliding into his mouth as he opened it willingly, almost hungrily. By the time we dragged his body back, he wasn't human anymore. We sealed the site, called in hazmat, and did everything by the book. But nothing worked. Fire didn't burn it. Chemicals didn't neutralize it. Containment barriers only slowed it down. The black substance moved with intention, almost like it was thinking, adapting, learning. Worse, Mark wasn't the only one. Within the hour, 3 more men showed symptoms after minor exposure. Eyes clouding, skin darkening, voices falling into eerie silence. They moved in sync, like soldiers under a single command, trying to tear open the barricades and drag others into the spreading mass. That's when the higher-ups made their decision. They locked down the site, cut communications, and told us nothing would leave that camp. Not the substance, not the infected men, not even us if we didn't contain it. We fought. God knows we tried. But how do you fight something that has no shape, no weakness, something that isn't alive but isn't dead either? One by one, my crew fell. The men I had eaten with, laughed with, cursed with, they were swallowed by that writhing tar, their bodies twitching and jerking under its control. I'll never forget their faces. Slack and empty, like dolls. I escaped only because I ran. I left them screaming. I left them pounding at the barricades as the black tide surged higher.